This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
With the fifth highest coronavirus infections in the world, South Africa assesses the spike in cases. In Nigeria, Lagos plans to shut some isolation centers despite being the epicenter of COVID-19 infections. And life-threatening winds and storm surges lash the U.S. East Coast as Tropical Storm Isaias makes landfall. Hello and a very warm welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongana in Nairobi. Also coming up at this hour, Egypt manages to contain inflation to a level not seen in 14 years. And in sport, a special series on the effect of the postponement of the Olympic Games on athletes. We start with water sport athletes. In our top story this hour, France says it will not ratify its extradition agreement with Hong Kong after China introduced a national security law there. The French Foreign Ministry says the new law compromises the one country, two systems principle, something Beijing strongly disputes.
These erroneous remarks and actions by French officials are an interference in China's domestic affairs. China strongly opposes this. I'd like to reiterate that the national security law for Hong Kong is not only in line with the one country, two systems principle, it also safeguards the stable long-term implementation of that principle. The claim that there is a violation of one country, two systems and a weakening of Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy and fundamental freedoms simply does not hold water.
Well, France and Hong Kong signed the extradition agreement in 2017. Other countries, including Australia, Canada and the UK, have also suspended their extradition agreements with Hong Kong since the new law was introduced in June this year, drawing criticism from Beijing. Hurricane Isaias weakened to a tropical storm after making landfall on the eastern coast of the United States. The storm slammed into North Carolina with winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour. It's predicted to churn up the Atlantic coast towards Washington, D.C., Philadelphia and New York. Isaias briefly weakened before gaining strength again to near hurricane speeds, threatening coastal communities, including the resort town of Myrtle Beach. And let's go to Malta now, where at least 78 migrants who were rescued by Maltese armed forces have now landed in the capital, Valletta. The migrants were found in the central part of the Mediterranean by a patrol boat. Some carried infants as they were brought ashore, and at least one needed medical care. The migrants were taken to detention facilities. In recent weeks, there has been an influx of migrants crossing the Mediterranean due to the arrival of summer in Europe. Now turning to South Africa, authorities in the country say it is moving towards the peak of its COVID-19 pandemic. Surpassing 500,000 infections, South Africa has the fifth highest number of cases in the world, and it ranks in the top 20 countries in terms of deaths. Angela Coppola takes a look at the reasons behind the recent surge.
The virus has struck down many, and government officials haven't been spared. 3 provincial premiers and 4 cabinet ministers have contracted the virus. But it appears from anecdotal evidence that people aren't too concerned about the virus.
I don't think they take it seriously because they're traveling without wearing masks around, and then people, they don't comply about the distance that has been mentioned, that we must give it to each other.
It's been suggested that a large part of the current non-compliance has to do with fatigue.
The starting point is attitudinal. Our attitude has been, this is getting in the way of our life. And it's beginning with the lockdown. We're tired of the lockdown. It's getting into our nerves. We want to get out there and do stuff. And that this is where you you throw care to the wind.
Compliance with government regulations is patchy, with some suggesting that there are 2 sets of rules.
Maybe in the workplace, whereby you find out that people at work they put the mask, but the people somewhere around in the locations, they're just walking free. Even some of bosses, you find them inside the shop, whereby the workers have got to wear masks, but the bosses are not wearing masks. So they're not taking it seriously.
Pandemics Data and Analytics is an organisation challenging the government-backed modelers on their predictions. It says that wearing a mask won't necessarily prevent the spread of the disease.
It's even hard to show an impact for medical masks worn properly by people who know how to fit them and know how to use them properly. So I would find it, I wouldn't really believe somebody who said they'd done a major study and look, the ordinary cloth mask wearing is effective. I think that's quite a speculative thing to say.
With the relaxation in retail regulations, many malls are now open, but not everyone is following the rules.
When I'm going through the shops, I find some people, they not follow the rules about the coronavirus. Some people, they washing hands with sanitizer. Some people, they just get in the shops without washing the hands with the sanitizer.
Funerals are also a large contributor to infections. Large funeral gatherings are a fundamental part of most African societies.
I come to your house when you have a bereavement because I love you. And as I do that, I'm actually endangering your life. So there was a time when we talked about the tension between lives and livelihoods. Now it is a tension between love and lives.
As South Africa heads towards that peak, it's all about people's behaviour and adhering to the rules and the regulations. And if they don't do that, the spike is going to continue. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Braamfontein, South Africa.
Authorities in the Nigerian commercial capital Lagos are planning to shut some COVID-19 isolation centres. Lagos is the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria, but in recent weeks, the number of new cases in the city has been declining. Deji Badmus has more on the story.
The Lagos State government's decision to shut down 2 more isolation centres comes just weeks after the first one was closed. But it's not just the decline of new coronavirus cases that is prompting this move. Since the government announced it was starting home care management of COVID-19 cases, the number of patients at its isolation centres have dropped off, with many patients preferring to be treated at home rather than at designated isolation facilities. The state government says just under 100 patients have been treated at its isolation centres at the moment, while about 1,800 are getting treatment from their homes.
So we've got it to a stage where we need to be able to balance the economics of it, and which of these facilities do we need to keep running. Some of them now are having less than 20% occupancy. And we've seen over time that we can very quickly also wrap up those capacity again.
Treatment for COVID-19 is free in Lagos. Instead, the cost is incurred by the state, but the cost could go as high as $25,000 per day for a severely ill patient that needs intensive care. And it's part of the reasons the government introduced home care management for low-risk patients.
We have seen a gradual decrease in positivity rates in Lagos State over the last 2 weeks, which combined with our increase in testing numbers points to a very encouraging picture of the outcome of our response strategy in the states.
Buoyed by the city's declining number of COVID-19 cases, authorities have now announced a further easing of restrictions. Schools are allowed partial reopening for students sitting final exams. Worship places can resume services, with some exceptions, while restaurants will be allowed dine-in services. But some health experts are warning against rushing to ease restrictions.
We may not be having a high number of cases like we were having before, but then again, it's all boils down on the number of people we are testing, the number of people that are coming forward to be tested. Before, in the past, a lot of people were coming forward to be tested, but now I doubt we still have that kind of zeal.
One step at a time. That's how the government in Lagos says it is approaching this. And despite the lockdown easing, it is also advising residents not to let down their guards, warning that the fight against COVID-19 is very much far from won. Deji Badmus, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
The World Food Programme says it's only able to provide assistance to 700,000 food insecure people in Zimbabwe. That's less than half of its 1.8 million target, and that's due to a lack of funds. The UN agency is now appealing for an additional $250 million. The funds will support up to 8.6 million people, or roughly 50% of the population, who will need assistance between now and December. Farai Makutuya found this story from the capital, Harare.
Opa Kanongani is a single mother of 3 in Hopely, an informal settlement on Harare's southern fringe. This porridge is the only meal she and her children will have until supper, when they will have the staple maize meal and what greens they can pick from a depleted vegetable garden. The little she's able to feed her children is courtesy of a monthly cash transfer from the World Food Programme. But the funds have been eroded by a deteriorating economy where the local currency has depreciated and inflation is soaring.
I get the equivalent of $9 per child, which is $27, but all my expenses are now in dollars, including rent and some basic foodstuffs. So what I get is only enough to pay for accommodation and a bucket of maize meal. There's no cooking oil or relish or soap.
The struggle to make ends meet has been worsened by the COVID-19 crisis.
I used to be a vendor, but since the lockdown began, we are being chased from the streets by the police. And with my children, I can't engage in those running battles.
With the combined threats of the drought, the economic recession, and now the coronavirus pandemic threatening to push hard-hit communities further to the brink, donors are stepping up their efforts.
In rural areas, we've shifted to in-kind assistance instead of cash assistance. So that's a package of grain, usually maize or sorghum, as well as oil and pulses as well. Now, in urban areas, given the circumstances, we have remained with cash-based assistance, and cash-based assistance in the form of either USD cash or through a voucher system. Either way, given inflation, we have adjusted the transfer values over the past couple of months from $9 to now $12 per person per household.
Hopefully, that will be accompanied by an improvement in the economy so that vulnerable families like Opa's can survive the impending emergency. Farai Makutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Top Egyptologist Zahi Hawass has taken to social media to respond to a tweet by Tesla chief executive Elon Musk. In it, Musk states that the pyramids in Egypt were built by aliens. Hawass, though, says the inscriptions found inside the Great Pyramids tell the story of the kings they were built for, as well as those who built them. Egypt has invited Elon Musk to come and see the Great Pyramids for himself.
All the tombs around the Great Pyramid mention Khufu Pyramid and the king himself. And also, inside the Great Pyramid, there is inscriptions telling us about the workmen and the gangs who built the pyramids. I found the tombs of the pyramid builders that tells everyone that the builders of the pyramid were Egyptians and they were not slaves. The pyramid was a national project of the whole nation. Ramses II was from Sharqiya, was an Egyptian. All his family, all Ramesside kings, ruled Egypt from the Delta. What you said is wrong and hallucination.
You're watching Africa Live. Coming up after the break, we take you to Madagascar, where they make the world-famous commercial vanilla in our new special series, Made in Africa.
My family has been doing this artwork for the past 600 years.
My dream is to be the leading player in Africa in spice sector.
Nobody in the region consumes it. Even me cannot afford the vanilla cooking.
What we've created here is the elegance, the color, the celebration of life.
Madagascar produces nearly 80% of the world's commercial vanilla. The price for first-grade extraction of vanilla beans from the island hit $600 per kilogram in 2018. This increase is due to a number of factors, including vanilla bean theft and extreme weather changes. We traveled to Madagascar's Sava region and met farmers looking at an innovative way to grow the vanilla orchid, as well as improve its quality as demand for the natural flavor increases.
This island nation produces nearly 80% of the world's vanilla. Regarded as the world's most popular aroma and flavor, used in foods, beverages and cosmetics. Though in recent years, vanilla prices have skyrocketed to more than $500 a kilogram, which makes it more valuable than silver. In short, everyone's go-to flavor for ice cream is about to get more expensive. We traveled to Madagascar's Sava region to find out how the sought-after spice is cultivated.
Wow.
Tiako be le mamboly satria sady mikarakary azy. Satria tsisy vary zany za kena mamboly fa raha ohatra tsy voakarakara tsisy vary. Pour rien zany za. Io zany no atiavako azy. Ny atiavako le hoe le tany mihitsy zany naturel, voajanahary izy ty. De mamokatra izy, tegna mamokatra. Zay zany mahatonga za hoe mamboly am'le raha misy satria voajanahary izy. De za zany tsisy karazagna nianatra télé-école tamin'izy ty fô karazagna izy fa misy ray aman-dreny tena namboly igny atao karaha ty de mamboly fa zegny za. Nagnaranazy zany de hoe Philbert Primo. De za zany 5 taogno. Managna renin-karatra. Ny asanazy zany mpamboly vanille. Amin'ny fokony eo amin'ny fokotany misy za zany président nandravasim-pokon'olo.
My grandfather from my mother part, he leave China, so he get in the ship and go to Mauritius first, and then from Mauritius he get to Voemar in Sava, and he finds the place very fine, and he decide to stay in Madagascar. And first he was doing the fish business and set up in Voemar, and this is how my family start in Madagascar. 我的名字是陈宇树，我以前是个土木工程师，重新搞起来，想现在重新种香草。
Fomba karaha ty zegny resaka fikarakaragna ity le vanille ity. Izy ty zegny 5 taogno zegny délai-nazy de rehefa afaka 5 taogno izy dia maty zegny izy. De soloagna am'zay zegny izy. De rehefa soloagna izy de afaka taogno araiky izy magnano fleur ty, magnano fleur. Tsy hainiky fleur voalohany mbola bouton karaha ty zegny izy. De rehefa afaka ambolagna mahay mitombo boky bouton ty dia magnome karaha ty zegny izy. Dia rehefa magnome karaha ty amizay izy dia magnome karazagna fleur karaha ty zegny izy. Izy magname fleur igny izy dia fomba osy voany amizay sokafigna izy dia misy raha hely zegny agnaty ao apakatra magnan'igny izy avy amizay tireny izy. Izy avy zegny mandritra ny 12 heures izy malazo zegny izy dia tsiraraka zegny izy fa mipetraka fô zegny izy. Isandra amizay izy le vita igny dia mitombo jusqu'à izy ohatran'igny. Fa le problème de zao rehefa mirécolte zahay avy dahalo sy le mpangalatra mandrava zay. Misy tsy mitondra fiadiagna maro isan-karazany, mamono, tsy vitany mamono fa le vola zay amian'jay zay vidiny io zavatra ivangian'jare amin'ny ila vanille igny mbola tafen'jare kay vonoan'jare. Ny androm-basim-pokon'ologno karaha ty. Ny fanjakana zegny no namorogno azy. Dia hoe magnano antsoavo ny fanjakana hoe ataontsika hoe 30 ao agnatin'ny fokon-tany araiky ny androm-basim-pokon'ologno mavoretina edy samborina tsy popoigny. Aterina amizare dia
I try to modernize the plantation first to control the fifth of the vanilla beans. When it is concentrated in a greenhouse, it is more easy to control the fifth. You can put camera, you can put dog inside. And secondly, for the profitability, usually 1 acre of fields in the traditional way, you can get hundreds of kilograms of vanilla. In a greenhouse, you can get even 700 kilograms per acre. So this is very, very high profitability. And secondly is you can control the climate in the greenhouse and make the flower pop up anytime you want, instead of waiting for the season of flowers. So this is the main reason people are changing into greenhouse. And now I'm not alone. Many big companies now are switching for the greenhouse. Yes, the new method of planting vanilla in Sava now consists to concentrate all the vanilla vines in one small place. It looks like this because the vanilla vine is growing up and up. If you don't stop it somewhere, for instance in the hanger there, he has to get down again and go up and get down and go up. At the end, you will have many vines concentrated in this trunk. This is one contradiction point of Sava. Nobody in the region consumes it. Even myself, I just use it for doing some patisserie, and seldomly I cook it, but it's very rare, especially now. Even me cannot afford the vanilla cooking. Vanilla is expensive. The usual reason is only there is not enough production in the world to meet the market. And now there is a tendency of natural products, and the main reason is the demand cannot be stopped So it's very hard to keep the price low actually.
Za zao tegna niasa lavany 5 taogno ary nampiova fiaignana zegny raha misy malôha magnologna izy ka fa nisy vidiny lavany nandritra ny 5 taogno taty tegna hitanao fa nivoatra be zegny za ta fiaignana ohatra za fa navita tragno fa misy fanifanaka an-tragno misy raha talon zegny tagny izy ty mbola tsisy vidiny be million zao tsisy raha ilagna izy ty na ôlo tsy tromba mba mangalangalatra ty zegny mbe olo fo izy ka fa nisy vidiny dia nangalatra ny olo fa za zao manana tombontsoa be noho ny fananko lavany.
L'impact ou les effets du changement climatique est visible dans tous les secteurs et dans tous les écosystèmes. Sur la Terre, au niveau du côté terrestre, on voit beaucoup d'insuffisance de pluie. Et comme ça a aussi entraîné des effets sur le climat en général, il y a les cyclones qui deviennent de plus en plus violents, qui rôdent les côtes. Donc les côtes deviennent de plus en plus étroites. Il y a l'augmentation de la température, il y a le décalage des saisons. La pluie n'arrive plus au même moment. Il y a augmentation de la durée de la sécheresse. Et l'impact, c'est visible au niveau de la terre, donc, où il y a un changement de la manière de cultiver. Quand la saison est décalée, les gens, les producteurs ne savent plus comment faire. Donc, quand il y a une augmentation de la température, ça joue donc sur les phénomènes, sur l'activité biologique de la vanille. Et le grand défi, c'est comment impliquer donc le gouvernement, le ministère de l'Agriculture, dans tout ça, comment impliquer la recherche pour trouver ensemble donc des solutions pour aider les communautés de producteurs de vanille.
Your business news is still ahead. Coming up, Egypt manages to contain inflation to a level not seen in 14 years. And the predicament of oil producers caught between falling oil prices and the coronavirus pandemic.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Let's start in Egypt now, where the inflation rate has dropped to the lowest level in 14 years. The headline inflation rate has now dropped a level lower than the 9% target set by the Central Bank of Egypt for the end of 2020.
Headline inflation in the North African nation has been gradually dropping over the last few years, but sliding down to 5.7% in 2019-2020 is seen as an unprecedented success in a long time. The government says its ability to control food prices has been the driving force behind the result.
It was an extensive four-year economic reform policy. Among other things, it included establishing new industries and factories to raise local production and exports. The same with agricultural projects. The state then started to reduce imports to save hard currency and strengthen the Egyptian pound. Naturally, prices of food and basic necessities began to drop gradually, pulling inflation down.
The drop in inflation definitely has had a positive impact on consumers.
With lower prices and inflation rates, this allows consumers to buy more food and goods with the same income, so as if his income was increased. This creates a sense of security that you can afford to buy food and basic necessities. Your family is safe economically and socially, and this leads to stability in the community.
Experts say what makes the achievement even more special is that it comes in the midst of the challenges of the corona crisis. The global pandemic has led to increasing inflation rates in many countries. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
While staying in Egypt, the country's cafe owners risk closure due to financial hardship following government-imposed restrictions on working hours. The businesses have long depended on evening opening hours, but measures aimed at curbing the spread of the coronavirus mean they can't operate at peak times. CGTN's Daniela Pearson reports.
Cafes all around the world are facing huge losses due to coronavirus restrictions. In Egypt, owners are considering closing their businesses to end their losses. Despite the government allowing cafes to return to work after easing measures, limited opening hours, half capacity and a ban on water pipes are hitting the businesses hard.
When the Prime Minister said that cafes can open, but without shisha, we opened. However, it is not working for us profit-wise, and we are losing.
After the onset of the coronavirus, things have really been affected, such as opening times and the closure during the first 3 months. It has affected the cafe and the allowed capacity. Because it's too small, we can't sit outside anymore, as there are laws that we need to abide by.
Facing huge losses, Ali has been forced to lay off 14 workers as the number of customers continues to shrink. Before the pandemic, Ali would count an estimated 300 customers. But now, having just 50 customers visit his establishment has become a Herculean task.
When I have $19 at the end of the day, where can I get the cost of my products? How can I pay for my electricity? How can I pay for my taxes? How can I profit from a private business with which I have to feed my children? It is not worth it at all.
I am honestly thinking of closing because we're not getting anything out of it. It doesn't cover the effort, the costs, the products, the salary of the workers, and not even the monthly income. There's also gas and electricity and water bills that need to be paid.
The biggest business used to be the water pipes, or as they're popularly known, shisha. But some customers also struggle to adjust to the new opening hours.
We are people that naturally like to stay up at night, especially during summer. We like to stay up late. So the fact that coffee shops now close at midnight is for us culturally difficult. This is different from people in other countries. They all leave at midnight, but here people stay up until dawn.
Last week, authorities reduced curfew by 2 more hours, allowing cafes to work until midnight. But with revenues in the sector dropping, most business owners are still searching for ways to stay afloat. Daniela Pearson, CGTN.
Crude oil producers across the world are hoping prices rebound after being hit by a double whammy, a price war followed by COVID-19. Owen Fairclough has more.
Venezuela has one of the most broken economies in the world, but a lot of crude oil, and it desperately needs to sell some.
At this moment, there are no ships that want to come to extract the crude, and that means that the inventories are at their maximum, and that maximum of inventory causes production to close.
Like other sectors, crude has suffered from COVID-19, but the pandemic merely compounded a battle for market share between the OPEC cartel's leading member Saudi Arabia and non-member Russia. They sent prices through the floor by flooding the market with a glut of crude, just as the pandemic brought the world and demand for oil to a standstill. The losses have been enormous, nowhere less so than in Middle Eastern states in the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC.
For this year, we project that they will lose in terms of oil revenues around $270 billion.
OPEC and Russia agreed to cut production, and global prices have picked up enough from 30-year lows for producers to open the pumps a little more.
Economists forecast crude oil prices rising to around $50 a barrel next year. That's more than double the lows they hit in the spring. But that forecast is contingent on a strong economic recovery, and there are doubts about that recovery now that coronavirus is surging in parts of the world that thought they were on top of it. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
President Donald Trump has told popular video platform TikTok that it must sell its U.S. arm to an American company or stop operations. He also says the U.S. should get a cut of the sale.
It's a great asset, but it's not a great asset in the United States unless they have the approval of the United States. So it'll close down on September 15th unless Microsoft or somebody else is able to buy it and work out a deal, an appropriate deal, so the Treasury of the the Treasury, I guess you would say, of the United States gets a lot of money,
Well, this is a reversal of Trump's comments on Friday when he opposed the sale of the Chinese-owned app to a U.S. company. U.S. foreign investment regulator CIFER set the September 15th deadline. The body cited national security concerns for the divestment order. Zhang Yiming, the CEO of TikTok's parent company ByteDance, said in an internal memo on Monday he understands but disagrees with the reasoning behind the move. While staying with TikTok, the popular video platform has over 175 million downloads in the United States, first in the Apple Store's entertainment category. Many American users are criticizing President Trump's threats to ban the app. Yu Yang has the details.
Save TikTok. That's what millions of US users are calling for as the app is threatened with a ban.
Whoever's seeing this, keep on fighting. Keep on fighting for this app.
The TikToks, and I just wanted to say to all my 35 followers that, I love you, I support you.
Users are voicing their opposition, directing their anger at President Trump and the U.S. government.
President is shutting down TikTok because he is afraid of a video sharing app for children.
And some even say they will vote Trump out in the upcoming presidential election. But on Capitol Hill, it seems both Republican and Democratic politicians are standing together. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said this week that the U.S. company should buy TikTok. And thousands of miles away, Chinese netizens have spoken out.
I felt shocked about it because we've been using many apps and software developed by the U.S.
It's clear America is trying to suppress China because we have been growing at a faster pace.
Many Chinese people say they use apps developed by American companies, and software created by both China and the US is used around the world. TikTok has brought many people entertainment and connection, especially during the pandemic. But it seems this political row could push people further apart in just a few weeks. Yu Yang, CGTN.
In a related development, ByteDance is reportedly pursuing a move of its TikTok headquarters to London. The Sun newspaper reports that the British government has approved the plan, but ByteDance has yet to announce a decision. Benji Hiver has more from London.
London is TikTok's main hub in Europe, and the app has 3.7 million users across the country. And soon the company's owners could be based in the UK too. A UK government spokesperson said that ByteDance's decision on the location of their global HQ is a commercial decision for the company. The UK is a fair and open market for investment, they said, where it supports UK growth and jobs. This is in direct contrast to threats from US President Donald Trump to ban TikTok from US soil, a move that puts him at odds with UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The White House alleges that TikTok hands over American user data to the Chinese government, which ByteDance denies, claiming it has no access to users' personal information. The move could also face resistance from Boris Johnson's own Conservative MPs in the China Research Group, made up of Sino-skeptic lawmakers. Yet, despite not wanting to jeopardize the so-called special relationship with the United States, Some government ministers in the UK have been quoted in the Sun newspaper saying it would be absurd to reject such a large company wanting to come to Britain, especially given the context of Brexit. With Britain having left the EU, there's an even greater need to encourage foreign direct investment from outside Europe. The future of TikTok remains uncertain. Its managers have defiantly responded to any threats of a ban. They say that the app is a home for creativity. And in coming days, we might find out that this city could be home to its owners as well. Benji Haya, CGTN, London.
And coming up in your sports news, up next. A special series on the effect of the postponement of the Olympic Games on athletes. We start with water sports.